Okay, running a little bit behind today. We are going to work on making this body with this cute Cthulhu. I think the body that I made for my slow bro will work. Here's the head so far. We don't have any eyes, got eyebrows. Vance, please stop yelling. So we've got the tentacles attached to the head. I haven't closed it off, that's fine. And I did not have time between mowing for a couple hours and trying to do my best to cook dinner and all this other stuff. So I'm going to have to cut out the pieces now. This is the head. I have to find all my parts. Vance, why are you yelling, please? There's the belly. What I'm actually doing is I'm trying to make this a little bit faster than I've made some things in the past. So my goal is to use the parts that I made before. Let's see what we've got here. Spine, back. So there we go. So this is my back, my belly, my chest. Chip, please stop barking. I think I got enough material here. This is not going to be a quiet house today, and it's really hard on me. Some days it is so overstimulating around here, and I know that other parents know the same feeling. All right, so what I had done is I made this pattern for a goofy slowpoke, but the body I think will work really well for what we're doing here, and it's still pretty simple. When I made the head, which was this here, I actually used the pattern for what I call gooblings, which are one of the early plushes that I had designed for. And they're these kind of goofy bug little mutant little creatures that when I made the small ones, they looked really cute. But my intention was I originally had this idea with them where I was going to do this thing where I built them with water-soluble thread. And then I would set them up so that whenever you put them in the washer, they would evolve. They would change into some new thing. And it was a real fun idea, but I never got around to making that version of it because part of the problem is that the changed versions, the changed forms were so sporadic, so strange that I wasn't really sure how I wanted to deal with that. And there's a whole lot of steps to figuring something like that out. I had plans on hiding stuff inside there. I knew that it was going to get bigger, so I needed to know how much more fluff I needed. So I didn't know if I wanted to set it up with little capsules maybe that also expanded or so that they opened up. There's a whole lot of things that go on to making a weird plush in itself. But then the idea of making a weird plush that changes shape was a whole lot of extra steps I just never got around to. Now, with Weird Wednesdays, I've got my first Wednesday, I made a Coraline mouse. I went through the process of actually making the jacket for a Coraline mouse, and I never got it finished. I keep wanting to get it done during the course of the week, but then there's so many other things. I'm trying to catch up on orders because I make these little mice too. People keep ordering these little mice, and I love to make them, but the problem is I, like a lot of other artists, will get distracted and start working on other projects. And now I am doing my very best to be a lot more vigilant and pay a lot more attention to what I'm making. I will make your Pokemon later, buddy. Right now I'm making a cute Cthulhu, a monster from the depths that is also huggable. And hopefully it'll work out. The plan for today is I'm going to make this body. We're going to see how we feel about the body before I do any kind of redesign. And maybe we'll make some of the arms. I figure it's going to have wings. It's going to have 2 arms, 2 legs. But there's a possibility that once I get this put together, we'll kind of start seeing some other things that I could do with it. And then in the end, once I get it all figured out, I will also make a brand new pattern for it. Something utilizing all the patterns that I've done already, which is easy enough to do. throw it all into one bag so I don't have to like dig for it in several different places anymore. And then make a pink one because we have decided that a cute Cthulhu needs to be made in a cute color. Hey, seal lover. If anybody ever stops by and I don't notice, oh, hey, sorry it took me so long, Seal. I have the phone like right next to my face, so I can't always see when someone says something. So please, just keep saying hi, keep asking me questions. I'm waiting for somebody to come in here so I can show them how to do something. One of the people that has been watching me for a while, their name is cutey, and they have been trying to figure out how to do some sewing, and they've had some problems that I think I might be able to help them with, but I couldn't quite fully describe it in text. So when they get here, hopefully I'll see them and they'll let me know so I can actually show them what I'm talking about and how to fix it. Because I am self-taught. I know how hard it is to figure out a lot of problems when you don't even know what words to search for. And how are you doing, Seal? You having a good day so far, at least? Have you been watching me trying to make this cute Cthulhu for a little while? I don't know if I'm yelling. Am I yelling? Sorry about that. I'll try not to yell. My camera is right next to my phone. My camera is right next to my face. So I'm trying to do my best not to yell. I don't know how that comes through, and I can't imagine that's enjoyable to hear. But also, I am super overstimulated, so I'm trying to talk over the extra noises in the house. And that in itself is very hard to do. My wife just got home, so of course the baby's excited. He's not a baby, but you know what I mean. Toddler, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, my baby. So he's super excited. He's trying to show people stuff, and he forgot that he's already shown me stuff. And then the dog is over there whining, and then all that stuff just piles on. Plus, I'm trying to talk pretty much nonstop here. So I've seen a couple lives where people just they're real quiet and they start doing their work, and I'm okay with that. I just don't know how to balance that for myself. So if I'm doing too much annoying stuff, just let me know and I will adjust accordingly. So as I was saying, I am all self-taught, and I started learning how to do this when my kid's sister was pregnant. And I thought it'd be really neat to be able to make plushes of all different sorts for my niece. And then it took me like 3 or 4 extra years before I actually started making stuff with any kind of regularity. Now I've got my own kid, and I make these little goofy Pokemon for him. And because of the stuff I've learned, I've actually learned how to fix his Pokemon. Hey, Cat B, there you are. I was hoping you'd make it in before I started sewing, so I can hopefully show you how to fix this problem that you're having. Hey, there is nothing to be sorry about. Not only are you not late, but I am late, so you have nothing to worry about. So one of the things I'm kind of thinking about here is, since I'm working on using these other patterns that I've made to make this cute Cthulhu, is there anything you guys would like to see on a cute Cthulhu? Something particularly clever or not clever or scary? I've been kind of considering what kind of additional things I can make on it, like maybe extra eyes or arms or tentacles and stuff like that. And I know that we might not know until I put it together, but it's something to keep in mind because I love hearing feedback. For example, when I made this, hey Spaz, glad you made it today. So when I made this, I asked people's opinions, and we wound up deciding on putting a separate color on the inside of this face tentacle. And it was a fantastic idea. You don't see it all the time, but it makes it kind of unique and fun. Oh, I don't know if you can hear it, but this baby is super excited to show mommy something. And whatever it is very important. I don't know if you guys have kids, but if you do, everything is super important, and it's so much fun, and you know that. So it's so consistent. Of course, you love it. You're going to miss it. But it's kind of hard to kind of talk over, and I don't like talking over. I don't like yelling. I don't like being upset. So if I'm not able to, if you can't hear me, if I need to repeat something, please let me know. I am more than happy to do that. All right, so I've got all my pieces here. We try and get everything kind of moved around. All right, Cat B, are you still there? I am going to do my best to show you. Try to move everything around so you can see what I'm working on and what I'm working with. the tripod that I'm using, it's a really good tripod. It's got like 3 points. Oh, and one of them did not get zipped up. So there we go. Yep. All right, Cat B. Excellent. So here's what's going to happen. I'm trying to get an angle of this so that we can see. But I'm also trying to get my tripod a little bit more sturdy. Okay. Here we go. And one more moment here. So one of the things I like to do, I do this particularly on Mondays with my Not a Pokemon. Man, I'm going to need you to keep him in the back for a little while, like specifically. I know. I'm very sorry. I don't know what you're looking for. Look on the table. Uh-huh. Door closed. He can't come out for a few minutes. Just like 10 minutes. All right. So once everybody's gone, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid having my son appear on camera. It's a weird world. I'm just trying to make sure he's protected. But here's what's going on. I want to show Cat B the process of rethreading. So what's going on is they are having these problems when they are sewing. Their stitches are coming. You can see their stitches, and it looks like it's not holding very tight. So I'm going to go through the process on my machine. I'm going to show you just a couple sections as far away as I can so that you're not too close to it. So one of the first things is hold the thread. Here's the end of my thread. I'm going to loop it through whatever this is called. This is the part that holds it in place. Now, the next part, Cat B. That is awesome, Seal. What mouse did I make for you? I'm not good with names. I apologize. But I'm really good with a lot of faces and stuff, so I'm very curious which one I made for you. But while you tell me, I'm going to show Cat B how to do this. So we've got the end of the thread. For me, the way that I have to set is I have to make sure that the needle is all the way up so that this hook part is as high as it goes. Okay. Once I pull it through, oops, I loop down. For me, I have to loop down. I have to make sure it catches that hook, and then this goes tight up against here. Now, what I will do next is I will put my finger on the thread coming out. I will then pull down right here. I'll pull it down really tight, not enough to break it, not enough to break anything, and then you'll feel it slide through this finger up here just a little bit. What happens is this creates a little tension somewhere within here, and that's how I fix the problem that it looks like you're having. After that, you can put this through the needle and give it a test. So we've already discussed changing the needle to something smaller. I think you've got a universal needle already on there, and we've talked about your stitch. So this is how wide the stitch is from between stitch 1, 2, 3. The smaller the number, the closer it gets. You can see by the design here, and that's how much space will be going through it. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yep, right there. So when it's at 0 to 1, that's going to be that. And then this is going to be the zigzag. I know your sewing machine is different. But for me, this is enough to hopefully show you what I'm referring to. And what I did was I ran the thread through where it's supposed to go. And when I looped it across here and started pulling down from the hook where my needle goes, this part right here, I pulled really tight and let it slide through just a little bit. Okay, now this might, if you are pulling down and this is not all the way up, you might pull this down a little bit. It's not a problem. Just slide it right back up and give it a good tug. Hopefully that fixes the tension on what you're doing. I know that from what I saw on your video, that's roughly what was happening to me. And if you were to pull just one of those strings, probably like the top one in particular, you might find that it slides completely out without breaking. I know that in the video you pulled on both strings, but I'll bet if you pulled on just one of them, you'll find that it slides all the way out because there's no tension on there. That's the common problems that I saw, and I did a couple real quick searches to try and see if that would help. And the best I could tell you is that seems to be the direction the problem is going. Now, anybody else that's watching, please remember, I don't have technical answers for you. I don't know all the details, all the correct words for a lot of different things, but I will do my very best to find a solution for any problem that you're having. I hope I didn't do, yeah, there we go. And if there's anything I can help with, I will do my very best to do that. Okay, let's see if we can get this body going together. I'm not exactly sure what's going to wind up happening with this. And I say that because when I make my Pokemon plushes, the goal is I start with this really goofy sketch of them. And then all I do is make a one-time real quick pattern for it. And from there, I run it on Mondays, whether it works or not. My Gengar turned out completely different from my drawing. Even my Slowpoke looked completely different than my drawing. But what I figure is it's going to be a lot more fun to just kind of run with it. And if something happens, I could always remake it. And the difference between doing that and what I normally would do is that normally if I'm making a brand new plush, I get some cheap material like this. This is just a sheet that I had. I'll get the material and I will try again and again and again and again until I get what I want. I have now reached roughly what I want my jumping mouse to look like. And I haven't got a chance to finish it. I'm very sorry, guys. Life, it just keeps piling up. But I'm making the bellhop circus outfit for the jumping mouse. And I just haven't finished it yet. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Cat B. I'm also working on orders, and that's part of the problem. I let myself fall behind, and I feel horrible about it. Gray with fabrics. Oh, that's fantastic, Seal. I do remember that mouse. You probably just recently got that, didn't you? I think that just came in very recently, didn't it? So I had a whole bunch of orders that I had put together, and then I realized part of my problem was I didn't want to make boxes for them. So I have now shifted the way that I ship things. And when I can, I actually put them into little folders now, which makes it a lot easier on me and the post office. The lady at the post office has been giving me a hard time for using those tiny boxes, and she was very happy to see me using the envelopes. And here's the thing. I see a lot of creators on here that have these fantastic little things that they do. They've got stickers and thank you cards, and I love it. The only reason I don't do stuff like that is because every time I do something more, I have to charge a little bit more. So I'm like bare bones doing everything I can by hand to make sure that I'm giving a good price and a fair price for the things that I'm making. Now, I know full well that if you order a mouse, you don't want to pay $30 for this little mouse. Yes, there's a lot you can do with it. Like, for example, I've got these hair clips, and you can actually wear them in your hair. But still, it's just a plush mouse. And as much as I love them, and as much as I think that I should probably be doing things with them, I'm trying to be as realistic as I can. And if I start adding all this other stuff like stickers and make a special box for it, I start getting into the realm of charging too much. And I don't know how to reconcile that. I don't know how to make that okay. And it's really hard on me because there's so many things I might do otherwise. Okay, I am working on figuring out the body to my Slowpoke. It's a really weird body. Let's see, I've got this labeled as the spine. I literally labeled this as dump truck. I wanted him to have like a really big butt. And that's not really how it landed, but that's what I was hoping for when I first started doing it. So now I have to kind of do a few different tests. It's not properly labeled, perfectly labeled, because, again, those are meant to be fun, quick, can make adjustments, but it's kind of like showing people that you can have fun making a plush without feeling like you have to do too much with it. I've actually got somebody who's wanting me to make plushes from their kids' drawings, and I think that that's a lot of fun. but also it's kind of a very different kind of nerve-wracking. If you're making a custom mouse for somebody, they know roughly what you're doing. They've seen it. They've discussed it with you. But at the same time, when you make one for kids, are they going to love it? Are they going to recognize it? Do they have something in their head that's very specific? Or it's so many different little things. I'm trying to make sure what direction my fuzz is going. All right, so what I like to do is make sure the fuzz goes a specific direction. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. This is the body. I want the back, the fuzz to be going down, and I want the front, the fuzz to be going down, because I imagine that when you're petting it, it feels a lot more soft if you're going with the grain of the fuzz. And this doesn't have like a super big pile. And my understanding is pile is the reference to how thick the fuzz would be on it. But it's just enough where when you pet it the right direction, it makes it feel real soft. And if you pet it against the grain, then it doesn't feel quite as soft. It's barely even noticeable when you're looking at it, but you can see how the light catches it differently. So it's nice and smooth, not nice and smooth. And for this, I put the belly onto the chest. Now, if I'm readjusting this, I would probably round these out so it's a rounded belly. But in this particular circumstance, I think it's going to serve our cute Cthulhu really well because it's going to give it a bit of a belly. And I think that'll just make it a tiny bit cuter. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever done any kind of plushing, but I have found that with a lot of detailed shape, it's not always the easiest to use pins. Also, I might lose power. We have a tornado. Oh, crap. I had no idea you were in that area, in an area with that. A week or two ago, I had the same problem. So be safe. Hopefully you've got everything set up so that you can get to cover quickly. Here in Oklahoma, it's a running joke that people will sit out and watch the tornadoes. And they'll get their lawn chairs and just sit out because they don't care. There's also a regular thing that people will say for when you're going to bed and there's tornado weather expected. Bras on, teeth in. Just in case you got caught up and you had to appear on the news. But hopefully you're safe, cute or Cat B. I love your little mice and bunnies so much. I can't wait to order one. Thank you so very much. I love making them. And here's another thing. I'm trying to find the right way to post this. But if anybody's interested, kind of let me know your thoughts on this. I'm going to be doing a giveaway. I've got a plan for just making a mouse. And that mouse is going to be what people are kind of working towards the giveaway. And what's happening is I've got over 4,000 viewers or 4,000 followers. And I honestly was never sure if I was going to have anybody watching anything I did. So I kind of want to do something to show some appreciation. And in the past, when I did that for my first 1,000, what I wound up doing was posting a few times about it and nobody saw it. And I had to make three or four different types of posts until somebody finally saw it, and then they started commenting on it. That way I was actually able to use that post to say, hey, anybody who posts on or comments on here, I'm going to put you into the lottery for it. So if anybody has any thoughts or ideas on what I should do, please let me know. I am more than happy to work on that. Hey, Nikki, a little pink and green mouse from you. Hey, I think that I just put that in my list. Alabama. Yeah, I haven't actually been to Alabama, which is kind of funny to me. My dad was in the military and I travel a lot. And he also did a lot of vacations, but I don't think I've ever actually been to Alabama. Nikki, which one did you, the little pink and green one? I am trying to remember, was it the neon? I think that we may have just talked and you told me you were interested in the neon with the light pink and a bow on it. I'm wondering if that's you or if that's somebody else and I'm just mistaken. Now, if you're watching this, the neon, yep, I remember. Okay, so here is the thing. With this material, it's got just a little bit of thickness to it. It's also kind of awkward. So what winds up happening is it gets stuck up between the boot and the feed dogs. One of the things that I have learned is that if I put just a little bit of pressure pulling from the back, it helps it slide through. Now, of course, the pins will get stuck. There's a lot of things that'll happen. And I have to be careful enough not to pull too hard, because if I pull too hard, then it changes the stitch from, I've got it set to just over 2. And what will happen is if I pull too hard, my stitch will be uneven. So instead of looking like this, they'll be like this. And that's definitely not something I want to do. I don't know if it affects the sturdiness of the plush, but I know that it affects my head and it drives me crazy, and I don't like to do things that drive myself crazy. So if you're seeing me pull on it, that's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to pull too hard. I'm trying to make it very steady, very even. I've also, for the first time, one of the last few lives that I did, somebody suggested putting the needles in so that all these balls didn't kind of get in the way of each other. And it's a brilliant idea. I hadn't thought about it. And it works really well with small plushes. I mean, I'm machine sewing this entire head together pretty much. So it makes sense to use the pins facing in. But I am now learning that if I'm using the pins, I want them facing out, because this is the hand that I'm pulling with, and I keep catching the little needle points. So if you're working from home and you're seeing this and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to do that, my suggestion is on the bigger ones, have your pins facing out so that you don't stab yourself in the hand, because kind of sucks getting stabbed in the hand repeatedly. And I just saw another message. What was that? Let's see. I'm new to sewing. I don't know how you could sew over the pins. Thought they would snap. So that's fun. Okay, there's a few things about that. First off, they are very small. And because they are rounded, when you have one point pressing into the other, it's very likely to just roll off of it. Now, let's see how this needle is bent. That's because it probably did hit the needle. Now, the next thing is, you're going to want to pay attention to this, is right here. This is my stitch. If you got a really tight stitch, then you are definitely going to want to remove your needles, your pins. But if you have a longer stitch, it's way more likely that the sewing machine will go from one side to the other and keep going. Now, I have seen people say it's brave to keep sewing with the pins in there. So there's a very high possibility that if you are taught by someone who knows what they're doing, they would say never to do that. I, however, was not. And because of that, I have learned how to do everything on my own, and it works for me. I just make sure that I have at least a 2 on my stitch, and it keeps me from having to worry too much about it. But I will admit, I have broken these needles before because they landed directly on one of these pins. So hopefully that's helpful. Teeny ta. Dang it, man, I was stuttering all over that one. But I also want to be very honest about the way that kind of works out. I'm at Waffle House, can't hear you well. I'm very sorry. I wish I could do a little bit more. I don't think I can be any louder. Oops, it looks like I may have done this upside down. I don't know how, but for some reason I managed to make my chest fuzz downwards. I will try and make sure that I'm speaking loud enough. I'm like right next to it, but I will try and speak up a little bit louder. If you need me to repeat anything, just send me a message and I will do my very best. Very best. Okay, now, when I made this pattern, I knew I wanted, this is the butt. I've got a little corner right here. It's almost imperceptible, so I'm not 100% sure that is what I think it is. So instead of risking sewing the butt and then going too far forward, what I'm instead going to do is tack this on, have it follow my chest, and then I will sew the butt on afterwards. I do roughly the same thing with my mice. When I make a mouse, I will actually sew the very front right here from about this point forward. And then I will tack on my body, the belly, so that I'm sewing from the front all the way around. And then afterwards, I will then sew this. And what that does is it gives me just a little bit of allowance, a little bit of leeway to make mistakes, because my patterns are probably not 100% perfect. He can come out now. So it gives me just enough leeway so that if I make a mistake or if my material stretches, I don't have to worry about it completely ruining what I've done. One of the things I learned pretty early on was finding little ways to kind of secure myself so that when I make a mistake, I'm prepared to adjust and fix it, or just do something that keeps that mistake from being too major. I did the same thing when I put this plan together for my slowpoke. So I'm trusting my experience, even when I can't trust my writing on my pattern. And as you can see, right about here is where I said that's roughly where that corner was. And right here is the center of my belly. So I'm not off by much. What that's probably going to wind up doing is causing a slight change in the shape when I get to that. But now I'll just go down the other side. Now that I've got all this put together, I'll just run down this side and do pretty much the same thing. If you know what your pattern is supposed to do and you know that it fits perfectly, you might still find sometimes that it's uneven. I've learned that when I tack stuff up like this, sometimes I will stretch one material out, or this material might get a little bit tense. So even just a little bit where it's slightly stretched and slightly loose, you'll find that it shifts more and more and more as you go. So if you know that your pattern is perfect and you're trying to line it up, just undo. Let's say you know that it lines up perfectly here. Oh, I've got too much space. Put your tack on and start undoing these and just kind of shift it just a little bit back and forth between your two materials. Part of the reason I say that is because even if your pattern is 100% perfect, you might not have cut it 100% perfect. And why fight it when you could just do a little bit of readjusting and recover, as opposed to trying to fight through the machine, or it doesn't come out perfect. Just make it a little bit easier on yourself. Little things like that will go a long way. And me making those mistakes, if I can help you not make those mistakes, that seems like a win to me. Okay, now I am almost done with this. One of the things that you have to keep in mind when you are sewing a plush together, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and tack this. No, that should be fine. Well, I'm trying to decide if it's going to be easier to tack it or not. I'm going to go ahead and tack it just so it doesn't get in the way. You can see that I just kind of moved that corner piece, so I should still be able to sew all the way around. One of the things you want to make sure you do, I need a black one to go on my bag strap. Well, I actually just recently, so I finished this as a custom order. They wanted a sun and a moon, or a day and night. I can't remember exactly how they described it. So if you just send me a message, thank you so much, Remy. If you send me a message, Remy, I will make a custom mouse just for you. And here's the thing about them. They have a little strap right here so that you can wear them. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I have clips so you can wear them in your hair, like that. I also have pins so you can wear them on your clothes. And they also each come with, let me get my stuff out of the way here. There is a little metal loop right here, right there. So you can wear them as keychains, key rings, or charms in that case. So you can put it on your back. And how long do these guys take? The bigger projects, I mean, like the silly Pokemon. So it's kind of hard to explain. When I make the silly Pokemon, I probably spend about 30 minutes doing a sketch for how I want it to look. Well, you know what? Let's say this. I start off with a drawing of how I want it to look. And then I will turn that drawing into a three-dimensional sketch based on my experience, which between the two of those things, that's maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. Drawing sometimes takes forever. It's really kind of funny how that works out. Then I have to make a paper pattern. Between making the paper pattern, cutting that out of fabric, that's maybe another hour, because I'm doing a lot of figuring out in my head. I'm comparing it to my sketch. I'm doing a little bit of on-the-fly measurements. But then the actual sewing process, that seems to consistently. It consistently takes about an hour and a half for me to do that. This kind of project is a little different too. And the reason it's so different is because I'm using pieces that I've done from other projects. Like, for example, I've made this body. So I'm expecting it to take quite some time. So far, just doing this was about an hour and a half. And you're seeing right now how long this has taken. It's already taken about half an hour. And that's because I was tracing the pattern and then cutting it. So the thing is that once I start making them, for example, these mice, I can do them in about an hour and a half. And when I first started making them, they took about 4 hours. Thank you so much. I actually really like the idea of a day and night, sun and moon. I'm a little worried about my moon. I put this crescent in there, and I'm just not sure if that's going to look like a growth or if it'll look like I intended as a kind of like a jester hat where they have the side of it as well. And then I put a vote to seeing what people liked for the collar on this guy, because for a little while I was considering putting a gold collar on him. I thought that would be really neat. My original plan was this little bit of blue because it made it really pop to me, and then having the little sun streaks because the inside is just a sun pattern. So I had a lot of fun trying to do this. I just hope that it ends up working pretty good. Looks like a little hat to me. Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much. I might wind up sewing down this collar a little bit so that it stays down, because I used the galaxy print. I want to have that little bit of color. But as I was saying, the mice, when I first started making them, I'm not joking when I say they took about 4 hours to do. And that's because I was still trying to figure out all the details. I make these patterns all myself. So what winds up happening is I'm learning to do something while inventing it at the same time. And then once I get it to look like I want, I have to start going through a process of what's the right order. Do I do the head first? Do I do the body first? And I've got all these different steps that I take when I make the mice to make them as easy as I possibly can. And now I've started adding stuff like the hats and collars and vests and so many different things to them. So about an hour and a half is how long it takes to make them. If I were to show somebody how to make that online, it would probably take 2.5 hours if we're going step by step. Additionally, they're so small that if you're not used to working small, you're going to have a whole lot of times that it binds up in your sewing machine. And I can show certain things to make that easier, but there's only so much I can do. A lot of that's going to be a case of practice to make perfect. Thank you so much. I try. Not everything works out great. I'm fully aware of that, but I have a lot of fun doing it. That would be dangerous for me. Trying to make whatever you want would be dangerous. I do have an Etsy. Now, here's the thing about that. I think the difference make it stand out. So my Etsy, it does have an extra charge because it is Etsy. But I also take orders directly. And I'm working on a website. I've got a friend that's helping me design one. But the problem is it's somewhere between having stock and having time to figure out all the details. My hope is that I'm going to set it up so that people can order custom mice. They can order custom rats or bats. And I haven't even had a chance to post too many bats because I'm trying to catch up on orders on everything. Oops. So I've got this opening here. What I'm going to try and do is see if I can't get... What happened was when I folded it over, it kind of caused a little bit of an issue for how level even it was. So now I'm going to have to sew this just a little bit awkward just to make it line up, because otherwise I'm going to have a chunk of it that bunches up, and I don't want that. If I'm going to have it bunch up anywhere, I want it to bunch up right there. So I'm trying to adjust for that. I'm going to put the back. Let me see. I have two options. I can do hand stitching to kind of get rid of some of that, or I can sew it all the way and use the top. And what I'm going to try and do is see if I can't get the the top to work for me. In fact, I need to make sure that I put it on the right side. I work with my needle on the right-hand side. So I try to make sure that I put my pins and line everything up so that it works smoothly in that direction. And there we go. My phone is about to die, so I'll have to go. All right. Well, you have a great day, Spaz. You be safe there in your Waffle House, which, by the way, I love Waffle House, and I'm hungry now. So thanks. All right. So it looks to me like one of the things that's going to happen is maybe I should just seam rip this little section here, and then I will go back over it later. I know that there's a whole lot of things that happen because I haven't made these before. Oh, yeah, I've got one pin right here. So there's little mistakes that are going to occur that I'm trying to find ways to fix. And I could always resew. Now, I've got my stitch at about a 2, just a little bit over 2. And the relevance to that right here is that I can actually see, I don't think you can, but I can see the stitches here. So that allows me to get underneath it with my seam ripper. And my understanding is that the way seam rippers are usually used is let's say that this was where the seam was. You put that in and you just run it through and you tear it. Well, this material is so soft that more often than not, when I tried to do that, it just broke right through and then ruined my material and caused me to have to start over. So I don't do that if I don't have to. And having a slightly wider stitch does not seem to have any negative effect on how strong my plushes are. I've been using the same kind of stitch for a very long time, and I have washed them. I have dried them, and I've not had them fall apart on me. So I'm hoping that that's not just luck. Come on. I know I cut a few more stitches here. But I'm hoping that's not just luck and that what's going on is I'm kind of balancing between my mistakes and everything else. So it looks like I am going to have to use this the way it's intended. Just got to be very careful because of, like I said, this material is super soft. Sometimes it doesn't matter what I do. Yep, see right there. That's exactly what I was trying to avoid. You can see right through it. I thought about that. I have thought about using a razor, but it winds up being the same problem. If I move wrong, it cuts through my material. And this, again, the material is just so soft that it's far too easy to cut through it. So what I tend to do is back and forth on the different sides, trying to get it so that, there we go. That should be just enough on both sides. Let's see if that's going to line up like I want it to now. See, much better. Already I can tell that I can get this to line up a little bit better. So when you use a sharp razor, do you not have to worry? Because I'm assuming what you do is you put like the razor in. Let's say these scissors are like the razor, that you put it in and you just kind of move this direction. But how do you keep it from tearing on the inside? I'm trying to find a good solid method for seam ripping. Because there's a lot of times that I'll make silly mistakes, especially like on Mondays when I do my Pokemon. Because if I can find a better way to unstitch them, I won't have to worry as much. Of course, I'm still going to be paying attention, but anything I can do to make my job just a little bit easier is definitely what I want to do. I stretch the fabric apart. I'm assuming like on the ends, kind of like, oh, no, you're talking about on the inside. You would stretch it apart on this side. And I'll have to give that a try. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying something else at some point in time. And maybe if it works, that'll save me so much time. And that should be good here. Get this to line up. So once again, this is the body for my Cthulhu. I'm going to show you my sketch real quick. This is what the body is roughly going to look like. My thinking is that it'll make a pretty cute body to go with this head. And the good thing is I made this before with a different Pokemon. So with luck, this will all line up pretty easily. But you can already see after I cut that off, after I opened it up a little bit, you can see that I was able to reshift, and now I've got an even butt, which is always nice to hear. Move my lights around. I still have not traded out my light bulb in my sewing machine. I still got it sitting right next to my sewing machine, right here. I just haven't gone and found a new one. And when I did go to try and find one, the one that I found looked like the screw part was almost twice as long. And I did not know if that meant it was a different type. I didn't want to risk possibly getting electrocuted or starting a fire, because this stuff has so much fuzz that comes off of it. I don't know if you can see, but there's like fuzz everywhere. Like all these specks, that's fuzz. But there's so much fuzz that I would hate to start a fire in my sewing machine because I used the wrong type of bulb and it just kind of exposed it to electricity. But I really need to get one because now I can get the light right here again. And maybe I'm just getting old, but it's definitely getting a little bit harder to see what I'm sewing at times. All right, so now I should be able to run this straight across. If I am super lucky, that hole that I accidentally made when I was trying to seam rip will not be a problem. Also, just a little bit deeper just to make sure. And let's see what that does. Now, one of the things that I'd like to point out is that for my Wednesdays, I'm wanting to do Weird Wednesdays, which means anything from, like today, I'm doing the Cthulhu, but maybe you guys want to see something else. Maybe you've got some horror movies that you'd like to see plush versions of. I've mentioned before that one of my ideas is maybe making the monstrosity from Evil Dead Rise. Oh, see, I missed. This is one of the things I tend to do. I run my chopstick through my opening to try and see if I missed anything, and here's why. When I miss something now, if I fix it now, I don't have to worry about hand stitching it. All right, but so what I was saying is that I was thinking about making that monstrosity from Evil Dead Rise because I thought that would be like a really cool thing to do. And I could always do it like cute version, like maybe out of teddy bears, or maybe I can just go for super creepy. And I have a lot of different goofy ideas for what I can do. And in fact, the reason I started doing the Coraline was because it's a movie that is just creepy enough to kind of fit the theme. And it had the perfect thing being these stuffed mice. Well, jumping mice. These amazing stuffed jumping mice. Let's see, did I miss another spot here? Nope, doesn't look like it. Now I'm going to go ahead and check around the edge of my belly just to make sure. I had it, see, right here, exactly what I don't want to have. And that happens because I don't quite line it up perfectly, or because as I'm sewing, I move things around a little bit. When you're sewing shapes as particular as a plush, it's not as easy as if you are sewing like clothing and it's mostly straight lines. Even if it's curves, they're still closer to straight than it is what I'm doing. That's not to suggest it is not hard to sew clothes. So if you make clothes and you're like, hey, don't be pretending like it's easy. I am not. I have not actually done too much clothes. And most of the clothes I have done have been for small things like my mice. So I promise I am not belittling anybody's ability on any way, shape, or form. In fact, I really want to learn how to make clothes. I want to start doing art shows again. And I liked to wear colored vests to my art events because I do these oil paintings and they have nothing to do with what I'm wearing, but I like the idea of being fun and unique and different, and it's easy enough to not have to worry about it. But if you put a little bit of extra effort into it, it feels like I get to be me. And where's the better place to be yourself than at your own art show? Okay, let's do some more check. I'm glad I checked all those spots. Honestly, it is super aggravating to think you have finished sewing something and find holes that you could have easily fixed if you had paid attention and looked. And it happens to me all the time. When I made my Gengar, I had so many openings in it because it's such a weird number of shapes. And each one of them, I swear I had gone over several times. Okay, so right side this out. If you are ever making your own plush, this hole that you're trying to pull everything out through, there are two ways to look at it from my point of view. One, if you make a small hole, when you go to stitch it closed, it's less space that you have to stitch and it's easier to hide it. As an example, these mice right here to here is the opening that I have, and it's actually pretty hard to see. I mean, it just looks like a machine stitch. I will also still take one of my pins or my needles and run it through because the fur gets stuck in the stitch and it makes it even harder to see where that was. Now, if you have a big opening, it is way easier to right side everything out. So let's say you have tails and feet and noses or heads or anything else. The small opening is really hard to get everything through, and the big opening is easier. And a big opening is also easier to put the fluff in. And I'm about to show you, because I've only got enough space for my finger. It's just a little bit easier when you have a bigger hole. And that just sounds hilarious to say. But fortunately, I think that everybody understands that since I'm making plushes, that I'm not that kind of presenter right now. I actually work with leather, so one of the things that I do is very adult-oriented. But that's a totally different type of show for a totally different time. However, there's a chance that what we may decide to do in the future is make a plush that has part leather or part pleather. There's a whole lot of other like in-between ranges that we could go. And I think that that would be a lot of fun. It looks like I've got just a little bit of the corner of the material may not have gone on the inside of that stitch. Something that'll drive me crazy that some people might notice, but it's something I really hate when I do. And maybe I can hide it when I put the feet on because I'm not planning on sewing this as a perfect pattern yet. This is definitely going to be something that looks a little bit better than if I were to make it the very first time, like my Pokemon. But because I'm using patterns I've already got, I have the benefit of being able to start from about 2 instead of starting at 0. And here I like, for example, when I sewed all these on, I hand stitched every one of the tentacles onto the face. So I had the benefit of kind of testing that out as well. Now, one of the things that's going to wind up happening is we may find that the body doesn't look as cute as I want. But if it looks creepy, we can kind of balance that out. Because once I turn this into a pink cute Cthulhu, I think that that's going to kind of negate any of the creepiness of it. And I've done that with a few things before in the past. Like I make these mutant mice. And when I make them in green, they just seem like mutants. But if I make them in pink, which I did the other day for somebody, it kind of turns into this cute, weird thing that not sure if I would call it a mutant anymore by that standard, but it definitely had extra eyes and an extra head and extra ears. So it was definitely a mutant. It just didn't have that same creepiness to it. As you can see, I'm trying to make sure I plump out everything. So I've got a nice little butt here. I wouldn't say this looks anything like a cephalopod, but it definitely has monster possibility to it. Monster potential. I also learned quite early on that whenever you're stuffing your plushes, if you really want to know what it's going to look like, you kind of want to overstuff it. It's not like you're going to ever get it so stuffed that it's going to blow up because you're just doing it by hand. But the relevance is that you might find that after you've perfected how you want your pattern to look, that you can then use less stuffing and see how it kind of droops in different places. If I were to use less stuffing, this little area kind of gets weird because these corners kind of pinch in. You can already see how it's pinching right here. And it's not the look that I want. I want a awkward kind of bulbous body. So I'm putting a little bit extra. You're not going to break up your fluff, but you can spread it around a little bit by using the chopstick. And that's all I'm really doing is trying to just kind of get it to spread just a little bit. and then adding more and more and more. I'm using my finger, but you can definitely use your chopstick depending on what you're doing. And I have to make sure I get just enough stuff in there to get the front and the back to take the shapes that I want them to. My original plan for the body that I made for Slowpoke was I wanted it to be bean shaped. I want it to be like a big oval. As you can see, I did not come anywhere near the shape that I was hoping for. But I also thought in the end that this looked really cute as a goofy Slowpoke body. If you're interested, I'll go find that Slowpoke real quick and then show you guys. But it's such a vast difference from what I drew that I wasn't sure I was going to be happy with it once I started putting it together. And I was. And now we've got a secondary use for the body. I thought about making demons using the same body type. And that's definitely something I could do because it's not like I have to use anything. I can't use anything more than one time. All right, here's our body. And with the head on top, I think that's going to work. And maybe it's a little bit big. What I can do is take out a little bit of stuffing here so it lowers it down a little bit. In fact, let's go ahead and do that real quick and just kind of see. I take out just enough to bring the body down. And what I would do is basically just hand stitch this a little bit lower. Or whenever I attach it, I will hand stitch it so it's a little bit lower. Yeah, I think that being a little bit lower kind of helps out because it covers the body a little bit more, the belly. Let me get this plug out of my way. So let's say I have it right about here. I'll get my fluff. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. What do you guys think? High up or low down? I think low down kind of gives it a little bit more of a hidden crammed body kind of feel to it. So when I add the legs on, let me go ahead and do some adjustment for this. So it's higher up or lower down. I think, lower down kind of makes it all seem a little bit more proportional, I think, giving it a slightly more bulbous head. And I could turn the head just a little bit so that you can see the tentacles going around the back still. I could always add more tentacles to the back, and I still don't think it's got enough room for the wings. So I can start adding wings here. And I can make little teeny tiny wings. I think that'd be kind of cute. So let's go ahead and slide this back a little bit. Try to get just enough space here. Now, my next question, how do we want to do the arms? I have managed to get pretty close to this design. I could pull up some Cthulhu imagery. I think that a lot of times that there's like these really elongated, kind of sinewy arms, but I don't know if that's really what we want to do here. So let's kind of move my camera just a little bit. Try and make some adjustments so we can see. So the first thing that I drew, I had the arms right here. Oops, let me get this up just a little bit. I had these little nubby arms with a slight claw on them, and I think that looks kind of cute. Basically, I would just cut that out and sew it on directly. So those would be right about here. I think they would still show up, and I think it would be in a good place for them. I could do tentacle arms. So let's go ahead and do some experimenting here. I could do like a tentacle arm. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let me kind of do some adjusting. Now, again, I have not created this already. This is not something that I am adjusting. It's something that I am kind of coming up with a plan as we go. And I love the idea of getting feedback from you guys. So feel free to just kind of message me on what your thoughts are. If I did a tentacle arm, I don't think that it would be distinguishable enough from the tentacle face that I've got. I think it would kind of blend in and would wind up not looking like an arm. But I'm not 100% sure what you think. Check in, no fees. How about I get rid of you Block account. Confirm. All right, we don't need to worry about that anymore. Oops, wrong button. Oh no. Okay, there we go. All right, so I don't think that kind of arm would be very good. Now I could do, we've got this one still, and it's a very simple kind of claw. Let's see, what else could we think of that might be worth doing? And see, if we're not going to do a claw, I could always do something like really long, elongated. So it is also a claw, but it has more of a creepy, monstery vibe to it. I could even give it a thumb if we thought that that would be worth doing. So like it comes out here. And then I could do just the hand, or I can do like an arm behind it. It's a lot more detail, but it also has a lot of possibility to it. This is kind of cuter. But when we do the whole thing together, this would still look kind of cute with the thumb, the hand. And I could just do the hand directly onto the body. I don't think it would need an arm, but if I did, I would do like just a little curved arm so that it kind of, let's see, curls around this way. Maybe I would do separate pieces, just give it a little fold. I could always do this a little bit more detail to it. Maybe round this out and then give it a claw. Now, something like this would be a lot more detailed. I would do the shape, and then I would probably sew right here to distinguish the claw. What do you step in when it's raining cats and dogs? Poodles. Ba-dum-bum. All right, so do you guys have any thoughts on either one of these that you prefer? After that, we also have the legs. And the way I've got them drawn up right now, it's kind of hard to tell. I imagine them having just a little bit of a leg, and then the point of the tail, the foot being like this. But I could also do the same thing where it is literally just the flat foot. So it would literally look like this and then points. It's kind of hard to tell from a top drawing without seeing like shading and stuff like that. So I don't know if anybody's got any thoughts on it. I'm more than happy to hear some ideas. Let's see if anybody has said it. Nope, we still got that. The next thought is we've already decided we're going to do some eyebrows. I'm probably going to make them a little bit more simple so that I can adjust them to make different expressions. And I do want to have extra eyes, but do you guys think that maybe I need to shape the head just a little bit? Maybe add like a plate of another layer that kind of sews on as well to kind of give it this crest on top? Or do you like it just being rounded like this? Let me go ahead and pull back up so you can see what the head currently looks like. The head shape is fine. I kind of agree. I think that after I add the eyebrows, that it'll help out with a lot. And then adding the extra eyes will also make a big difference. So I'm glad you agree with me on that one. Thank you, Teenita. All right. So we've got eyebrows. We've got anybody have any thoughts on what we would like to see with the hands or the legs? If not, what I'm going to start doing is go ahead and start making the eyebrow. I'll start making the arms first. I will probably put the eyes in a little bit later, but I'm not 100% sure. If nobody has an opinion, I'm probably going to stick with this one. A very simple design. I don't have to worry about too many details to it. I will probably go ahead and just do 2 claws. I think that's a good number for it. And then I will just make it as a simple design and then sew it, hand stitch it on afterwards. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. I need to, here is a scrap piece of paper. Here's my body. I think that I'm going to do about, let's see, looks like about 2 inches almost. So let's do a 2-inch arm, and I'm not going to make it even. This is my center line, but I'm not going to make it the same on both sides. Let's see, again, 1, 2, so right about here. Make it a slight bit bigger because when I sew everything, I'm going to lose a 1/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead and make 1 claw bigger. We'll do it rounded in, so rounded out, I mean. So 1 claw bigger. And then one claw just a little bit smaller. If I give it just a little bit of a curve right there, just have to make it a little bit bigger. I think that adds a nice little touch to it. And then this one will be pretty much straight. I don't want to put a curve on that. Make it just a little bit bigger. And this one just a little bit bigger as well. This should be a good enough shape. And what I could always do is, like, I'll make one. And then after that, we'll kind of do some adjusting to see what we like and don't like. And this will also let us see if that's going to hold the shape when I sew it together. Let's see. All right. Now, if you haven't noticed, I am using different scissors. I didn't learn this until long ways into figuring out how to do sewing for myself. But if you use your sewing scissors to cut paper, a fairy or a woman with a septum ring and blue hair will jump out of nowhere and smack you in the face. And apparently it's very well deserved. So if you are just picking up sewing, keep in mind. All right, you have a good one, seal lover. I hope you had at least a little bit of fun. And I hope you love that mouse. I really do. If you are just learning how to sew, keep in mind that you want to get 2 different types of scissors so that you can cut your paper with one and your fabric with another. It's just safer for everybody. I will do my very best. You have a great night. All right, now I've got a couple extra pieces, so that's fantastic. What direction is my fuzz going? Looks like down this way. Does that seem right? That does not seem right. It doesn't seem right because I just cut something. And that's not the direction I would have cut it. All right, so I want it to go downward so that when you're holding its hand, you're going to pet it like this. I do use a pen. When I cut my pattern, I learned pretty early that this material right here, you can already, if you look at it, you can see how uneven it is. And some of that is because the fuzz is on there. That fuzz stopped me from being able to use soapstone or colored pencil. And I learned really early on that even if I use a pen, since I'm mostly cutting off my line, I don't have to worry. But the little bit of ink that remains, it does not cause a problem even when I put it through the washer. I had a yellow star that I made for my lady, and when we washed it, because it was just a big pillow, there was never any extra ink that came off, and it didn't cause any problems, even with such a light color like yellow. And try and get this cut out pretty quickly. And if this works out, I won't worry about doing the second arm until later. But maybe I can start adding the eyes to my plush. I'm going to start seeing what it's going to look like when it's looking down at you. Now, anytime that I make something like this, I'm always willing to make custom orders. I'm also willing to make new things in accordance to what people want. I'm working on making a frog. I have made fat dragons and koi fish and elephants. So if there's anything you are interested in that you would maybe like to see me make or that you are wanting a custom version of, let me know. Worst case scenario, you reach out to me and I'm not able to do it. But best case scenario, you might get something that's you can't find anyplace else, which is fun in itself. All right. Kind of do some adjusting again. I'm trying to move the camera around so you can see roughly what I'm doing with everything, but I don't know how important that really is. I can't imagine it's fun to sit and look at an empty space, so it's got to be better than nothing, right? All right, this is a pretty small piece, but fortunately it's got just enough space where I can use this and press through so that I don't have to worry about getting stuck on me. Right now, I'm just trying to make sure I catch the shape that I made these fingers in. I'm going to leave the back of it open so I can right side it out. Okay. It is pretty simple to do. Now, the funny thing is that when you're sewing your plushes, like most other things, once you've got it all lined up and put together, it really is not very difficult. There's a few things you may have to learn about threading your machine or the different materials that you're using. But I really advocate for people starting new things. And if you're looking at plushes and you're like, man, nobody ever makes plushes the way that I would love to make them, you could. And I will happily do anything I can to show you so to make it easier on you getting started. So if you do need some help, just reach out to me and I will send you messages. I can make videos. I am now posting stuff on YouTube. And most of what I'm posting right now is my lives. But a lot of my live is talking about how easy it is to make stuff for yourself. So there's a lot of little lessons that you can get in that as well. And it's under the same name on the YouTube for the Versatile Deviant. I've only got a few videos up right now, and I'm trying to get the rest of them downloaded before they disappear off of TikTok. TikTok holds on to my lives for about 30 days. And I've got most of my old ones. I think I've managed to save them all. But I have to double check the newest ones in the last couple of weeks. So I got to get to that pretty soon. All right. Now, as you can see, it did not take much of the curve for the bottom claw. But I think should be good enough for us to see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff this. My fluff is on the floor, and I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't keep falling over on me. Now, another thing I learned, when you are stuffing something that has a small piece like this, say, for example, my mice have these small feet, the legs, you're going to want to use a small, just a little pinch of fuzz. And the reason is because if you have a whole chunk of it, no matter what you do to push it in, it's not like it breaks apart. You might be able to get it to spread out, but even the wider end is not going to make it come apart. It's just going to slide right through it. However, if you start off with just a small pinch, you can then fill that gap in with that chunk and not have to worry about if the rest of it will fill in accordingly. So all I'm going to do is just press all of that into my finger, just like that, and now it's a little bit more firm. Sorry, what is that? No, I'm afraid I do not. It might be in my room, but I'm not even slightly sure. So, go ahead and get these stuffed in there. Just a little bit of extra. And then I can just start throwing a lot more fuzz in there. Now, again, I am more than happy to answer any questions. So if you're kind of checking this out and you're thinking, man, I'd like to learn how to sew. If I'm inspiring you to learn how to sew, I am more than happy to teach you how to do whatever I know how to do. I learned everything on my own. I did YouTube videos. I failed. I did some reading. I asked people. And the more information I can get from one source, the better I felt like I was. But learning how to do all this stuff myself wasn't the worst. It just took a little bit of time. And I'm more than happy to help you cut down on some of that time by sharing what I do know. This is almost done. I can show you how to sew up an opening. This pretty much happens every time. If you watch any of my videos anywhere, when I'm talking about how to do something, you're going to learn how to do the same thing over and over again because I kind of discuss it each time. My theory is that not everybody has seen everything that I do, and repeating it's not going to hurt. Hey, Bethany. Thank you for stopping by. But I figure if I do something and I do it often enough that people are like, oh, I remember him saying this. That's helpful. Ooh, stealing a little bit of thread from my sewing machine. Get this extra material out of the way. All right, so thread your needle. You're going to line up your two ends. This is something that my mother taught me. You're going to pinch the end of your thread, wrap it around your forefinger and back to that pinch, and you roll and pull. Oops, I missed it there. You roll and pull, and you'll get a very simple little knot. and you don't have to worry about trying to wrap it around and feed it through. Since I'm new to sewing, this is so helpful. Fantastic. And Tina T, if you have any kind of questions and things that you need, I may not have an answer for you, but I will do my very best. All right, now, here's something to keep in mind. Whenever you're going to close your opening up, my needle's a little bit thick. It's just the needle that I have. I do a lot of use what I've got because I don't want to spend money on things when I don't have to. What that means with the bigger needles, sometimes it pushes everything aside. So in order to keep my thread in place, I will actually stab right back in where I came out. As I pull my thread tight before I get to the end, I will slide this needle between my two strands of thread so that the knot holds it in place. So now I can actually just go ahead and start sewing and not have to worry about it coming out on me. Why is it you go on an only adult trip dose if it feels overwhelming when you get back from a while? Why is it you go on an only adult trip dose? Does it feel overwhelming when you get back from a while? I'm trying to balance what I'm reading here. So are you asking if whenever you go on a adults only trip, why does everything seem overwhelming? First off, if you go on any kind of trip, everything's overwhelming immediately for me. It's like I want to be on vacation mode forever. Why? Okay, let me read that again. Why is it you go on an adult only trip? Does it feel overwhelming when you get back for a while? Yes, that's what I was saying. It's like, honestly, any kind of trip, whenever I come back, I don't want to be an adult. I don't want to do anything, but I can only imagine on an adult only trip where you have no kids, no responsibilities. There's a whole lot more going to it. And it really depends on what degree of adult only that is. Because if you're talking upside down pineapple, yeah, I can imagine that coming back to the real world super sucks. But if you're just talking about everybody gets to gamble and smoke and drink, that's still super relaxing. And why would it not be overwhelming to come back to the real world from that? Honeymoon trip. Fantastic. Congratulations, Bethany. My parents took us on a cruise, and it was before we were married, but I can only imagine that coming back from that means that the real world kind of sucks. Like so many different things, that you just got married, you're having all these wonderful new things, and you're on a cruise, you're on a vacation trip, you're just on a train ride, you're just not home. Everything just kind of piles on as soon as you get back. And I know how aggravating that is. More than a couple times I've come back and had to get right back to the real world. We went to Gatlinburg, no kids. How do you estimate how much thread you need when hand sewing? Is it a generous estimation? I do a generous amount because I don't want to run out. It's just that simple. The good news is if you start sewing and you run out, you can tie it off and just start again. And Gatlinburg, it's been so long. I was born in Germany, but I have not been to Germany as a vacation since my dad was stationed there. What is that? I'm not sure what this is, but let's see if we can get out of that. I'm sorry, kitchen so-and-so. I don't know how to close this out. And I would really love it if you closed it for me.
All right.
Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you so very much. I don't even know how I did that. I apologize if I hit a button on there, kitchen. But thank you so much for helping me get out of that. All right, so let's see here. We've got small end, big thumb. Let's go ahead and put that on the outside. It's not going to make much of a difference. You probably can't tell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I mean by tying off your stitch and then just starting over again. But it's going to be basically doing the same thing when I'm sewing an arm on. Normally when you're sewing that top, you can still do the same thing. And a generous amount on a small opening is really easy to kind of adjust for. But if you're trying to sew a whole lot and you run out, you can do this basically the same thing I'm going to show you right now. All right, so for what I'm doing now is I'm going to be attaching this arm to the body with what is generally called a ladder stitch. That means where I come out, I'm going to go directly across, do a shallow stitch, pull tight, and go directly across again, and just keep repeating. Just a small stitch. You can see that I'm going to go in and come almost right back out, and then pull tight. Now, when you're doing this, let's say you run out of thread, all you'll have to do, let me show you real quick. You do the same thing. You do that stitch like I just mentioned. Keep your needle halfway through your material. Pull it nice and tight. You don't want to pull it so tight that you break the thread, but you do want to pull it tight. Let's see if I can get it on here. Wrap it around your needle. I do it twice. Hold it in place and pull your needle out. And now you have a little knot. If I were to stop here in order to hide this extra thread, I would push this needle in where I came out at a random point in the body, and then cut it off so that the loose end is on the inside. But since what you'll do if you are going to start sewing, let's say you ran out and did what I just showed you, you will just go ahead and start your new thread the same way I showed you earlier. Just push it in, get it tight, and just continue sewing. It's a real easy little process. If that's not a good enough explanation, please let me know, and I will show you another method in another way here in just a little bit. And let's see, we were gone for 10 days, 4 to get there and back, and 6 days there. A 6-day vacation is a long vacation, and it's almost impossible to just get immediately back to work from. What we wound up doing was we took 1 extra day. I hated going back anyways. It still felt like going right back. And when we took another cruise, we did the same thing. We went right back to work and everything. So, Bethany, I feel it. I understand it. And I wish I had a better answer. But maybe if you just kind of get drunk when you get home, you can, as soon as you get off work, you can start vacationing just a little bit more. So you can taper yourself off of it. And what I'm doing, again, I'm just doing a very simple little ladder stitch, but this stitch holds very strong, and this is something you would use whenever you're attaching arms, legs, heads, anything. In worst case scenario, if something happens and it does break, it's easy enough to describe to someone so that it can be repaired. I've only had a couple people mention anything about any of my plushes coming off, and that was an arm, pretty similar to what I'm doing now. And just that simple stitch was all it took to get it right back in place. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about on how to close this off in just a minute. And you can see right here, got the whole thing put on. It stands out a little bit, but that's okay. It is an arm. It's going to stand out. So what I will do now is I'm going to go ahead and put the needle halfway through. Halfway through, I'm going to wrap the thread around it twice. Pull tight. My knot is now in place here. And I will put my needle right back in where it came out and just out at a random point in the body. You can see that it's a few inches away. Be careful. If you are holding your plush and you do this and you stab into your thumb, that is one of the worst pains ever. Now you've got your thread through the body. You can pull it just a little bit tight. I don't shear. I saw. And I don't shear because I don't want to accidentally cut my material. But when I cut it off, that end went right back into the body, and you don't have to worry about it getting in your way. Bethany, do you guys have kids, or is it just the two of you so far? And this is not a judgment question. This is just me asking, did you come home to kids and then the super overstimulation after being around no kids? Because that seems like it would be a funny contradiction, like going back and forth between the two of those. Also, did you do one of those newlywed shows? Was there somebody that was hosting a show and you had to go on as the newlyweds? because that would have been funny too. Yes, 2 kids, 7 and 9. So at least they're not like my 5 or 4-year-old who is mommy, 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 papa, 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 look, look, look. But you probably still had a lot of stimulation from them. So it was probably great to see him again. But I imagine that just added to the amount of, man, I'm definitely not on vacation anymore. Yeah, you think that was funny, huh? He heard me mocking the way that he calls on us, and he said it again in the background. He's in the bath. It's been years and 9 months on the 10th. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. All right, everybody, let's look and see what we got here. I kind of think that that's going to work, and I'm going to put the other arm right here. It's just going to stick up just a little bit. Let me go ahead and adjust my camera so we can see it at a little bit of a distance. All right, so we got just a little bit of crushed in body, so that makes it, yeah, I think that that's going to be a good arm for it. Even though the other arm's going to be hidden under these tentacles, if I were to make more of these, all the tentacles are always going to be so random from one to the other. But I think that arm will be a pretty good shape. Maybe in the future, if I do multiple colors, like if I did this color for the arms or the belly, it would help it stand out a little bit. But I liked the idea of it being all solid color because that kind of makes it look a little bit more creepy as well. Awesome. Okay, I'm glad you like that. It's been years and 9 months on the 10th since our wedding. Oh, I thought you said you went on a honeymoon. You went on an anniversary, didn't you? I thought I saw honeymoon. But either way, that's also a congratulatory thing. 9 months on the 10th. It's been years, 9 months on the 10th. Honestly, I know that the honeymoon phase is fantastic, but it's also a different type of stressful. You're learning a few different things. Even if you've been together for a long time, like my lady and I were. We had a lot of problems. I made a lot of mistakes. Then she told me we were getting married. So I was like, okay. We went on a late honeymoon trip. Well, congratulations on finally getting to go. I'm really happy for you. I don't think that there's any kind of range of time that you should have to go on your honeymoon. But when you get to go, that's fantastic. What's up, baby? What are you saying to me? That is 10 years since we got together. Well, that's fantastic. That's a pretty long going relationship. I don't know what the average is nowadays, but I do know that everything kind of sucks sometimes. So congratulations, Bethany. Congratulations on your 10 years. Congratulations on your honeymoon. And I'm very sorry you had to come back to the real world. I don't know if that helps or not. What I'm doing now is I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the other arm, draw out the other arm. But I realized that I would love to put the eyes in while you guys are here. So I'm not going to cut this out right now. I'm just going to set it to the side. So together, if you guys are up for it, let's figure out where we're going to put the eyes. And here's the thing. I have several different eyes that we're going to do. In my sketch, oops, let me get this over here. In my sketch, I liked the idea of there being different eyes and different size eyes. So I know I drew all the outer eyes of the same shape, but I'm going to do big eyes for the middle, for the primary eyes. And I've got several different shapes for smaller ones as well. So I've got the big eyes, which I think will make a great look, especially once we get an eyebrow on there. And then I've got, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and pull out a few different size eyes to show you all in one place. I am running out of 8mm eyes. We have to order 8mm eyes. Yeah, how about that? What was that? Can't hear you. What was that? It sounded like you said, yes, honey. I would love to do that for you. She's so sweet. Almost. I'm sorry. I'm getting them all put together here. All right. There's the different size eyes that I've got. So I'm going to kind of sporadically put them around. Oh, fantastic. I'm glad you didn't get blown away, Cat B. Cat B is in tornado area and they have warnings. So everybody keep your thoughts with Cat B to hope that they don't get swept away in the tornadoes. Okay, so here is my range of eyes. I'm going to do a big eye and a big eye. And then I'm going to do a series of eyes around here. Is there one thing I want to keep in mind is that, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and put the big eyes in. That way I can use that to plot where I'm going to put the eyebrows and then move the rest of the eyes in accordance to that. I think that that's a good solid plan that keeps me from getting too jumbled up and or ahead of myself. And then let me go ahead and get all these put away. And since they are in different piles, what's happened is I have this box that's got all these different eyes in it. But before I do this, I have one more thing I have to go look at. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Yes, sir. In the red room? Yes, you're going to sleep in the red room. You don't want to sleep with Papa? Very sorry for taking so long. I literally just cleaned up my space because I was trying to find something. And go figure, I brought exactly what I wanted all the way to the back room. Okay, so here's something that I've got to look for. I have the option of giving him, move this light just a little bit, kind of do some adjustment, some different colored eyes. Now, it's nowhere near as big as the big eye, so maybe it's not worth doing. But I also have pink eyes. And that could make for a cute Cthulhu, but I'm not sure. I kind of like the black eyes by themselves. Maybe the pink eyes in the future. Does anybody have any thoughts, any opinions on that? Because I really do think the black eyes kind of are more monstrous. And I could always use the pink eyes for something later. Maybe we come up with a plan specific for the pink eyes, which if I say it that way, it sounds goofy. I think the same thing for I've got purple. I've got two different types of red eyes, and then I've got purple eyes. Let me see if I can find my other eyes. Oh, maybe I don't have two different types of. I only have the one type of red eye. But I also have like this purple eye, which looks really cool. I just don't think it's good for this because it's not quite big enough, and I don't have bigger. But the size of the pink eyes is pretty close to this. I just really think that I'm going to wind up doing the solid one unless anybody's got a real strong opinion contrary-wise. Because I think that that's going to make it look like a monster. And even if I give it a cute expression, having this kind of changes it. It doesn't feel like Cthulhu to me anymore. All right, so you got like 10 seconds. And then I'm just going to roll with my idea. We're going to find out if anybody has any opposing thoughts. Because I am definitely happy to go with the crowd for a project like this. And we are sticking with it. All right. I like it. I appreciate it. Okay. I'm not even sure how many people are in here. It looks like there are 13 people, but I don't really know. It's hard to tell sometimes. I haven't got the experience of looking on what's going to happen here. Or what is happening. So, all right, let's see. If I do these about here, that gives me, let me find my, I have to make sure that I try and center these. While I don't mind uneven eyes, it's not the worst thing in the world. I definitely prefer them to be even enough to not look lopsided. I am going to do just a little bit of seam ripping to make that hole just the tiniest bit bigger because the end of my eye is so big. But I'm doing it as careful as I can to not rip right through all my material. And I think that should be enough. But I do have to pull out the stuffing to get to it. I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to be doing back and forth with the stuffing, like pull it out, put it back in, pull it out, put it back in. When I sewed on the tentacles, it had the stuffing in there. So some of the stuffing is not going to come out because it's sewn in place. But it should be able to get enough of it out to reach the spots that I put the holes in. Now, these are called safety eyes. And the way they work is they've got the inside is a little bit ribbed. It's got kind of tiers to it. And then you take a washer, you press it in, and the tiers, the ribs, actually hold it in place. Just like that. And you tighten it up good and tight in there, good in as low as it'll go. And that's how all the safety eyes are built. Even the ones that just look a little bit different. Let's see. There's my other hole. They're real easy, and you can actually find custom versions of them. You can probably make your own custom ones, different sizes. There's a whole lot of options out there. So if you're making your own plushes, these are fantastic for that. And I'm going to show you something with the smaller ones. So with the smaller one, what I tend to do is after I put this on here, I've seen people melt this black piece so that it melts down and around it. I just don't want to melt plastic in my house. I'm just not super excited by the idea. So what I wind up doing is taking a pair of pliers and just snapping them off. I don't do that with the big ones because they're so big. But here, let me show you what I'm talking about with the small ones. The small ones might have, come on, little points on them. And because that point might get hit if someone's playing with it, I cut it off to avoid someone getting hurt. I love the idea of someone being able to cuddle without having to worry about that. I'm already hard pressed to use the safety eyes because they're hard like they are, but they look good. I don't have to embroider or sew on eyes. And it's not always easy to add a fabric eye without having... Even if I knew exactly what this plan was going to be, it would still be kind of hard to put the eye in the right place because there's always that possibility that when I sew it together, I'd sew it uneven. I'd make a little shift in one direction or another. So now what we're going to do is we're going to imagine that there are eyebrows on here, and I'm going to find out where I want to put the eyes. If anybody's got any opinions on it, any thoughts that they would like to interject onto, just let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to do sets of eyes kind of even, but in different places. So I'm going to do right about here. And my hope is that I can get this done quick enough that we can actually see what it'll look like with all the eyes on. And then I will, over the weekend, try and do the other arm and maybe get the eyebrows sewn on. So we've got an eye here and here. Let's go ahead and I'll attach those. I think that I don't need to go to my smallest eye for sure. This size will be good. And what I may wind up doing is deciding that it'll be kind of fun to add an eyebrow to each of the eyes. Can you imagine if it made an expression like a jumping spider placement? Yes. Kind of like how the spider's eyes are. And the reason I do that is I picture sea monsters having all these extra eyes. When I made a kraken, I gave it all kinds of extra eyes. And let me see, got my different washers here. Eat. There we go. And then I'll show you what I'm talking about by snapping it off. So I've got that on. And I'm just going to take my pliers, snap off just a little bit, but I want to point it down so I don't get it to fly across my room. Get a second one on. Let's see if I can find that. There it is. Okay. I'm not sure how many more eyes I'm going to add. I know I'm going to add at least 2 more. One more set of eyes, at least. And then maybe what I'll wind up doing is figuring out the placement for the eyebrows and deciding if I want to do an eyebrow for each of the eyes. Because again, I kind of imagine that if the cute Cthulhu was surprised or something like that, that all the eyebrows would pop up all at once. Or if it was mad. Good. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Maddie. I'm glad you like the way that they look too. Okay. That is definitely helpful to know that it's coming together okay. See? That's not too shabby at all. So maybe like right here. If I do right here, then I can still leave the eyebrow here, and I can leave it open for whatever I place it, like whatever expression we decide on later. So I'll do it to the side of the eyes. Make sure I don't stab through both sets of my material here. Trying to make this hole big enough is not that difficult. You okay? Mm-hmm. Hey, you did something to your hair.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at you since you've been home. I'm so sorry.
No, I just did it.
Oh, just now?
Yeah, I was taking it back.
Okay. I was kind of feeling bad. I was like, I didn't look at you at all? All right, so I'm trying to get it pretty even to this. So let's see. That's kind of right about here, I think. All right, the good news is if it's not perfect, it doesn't probably have to be perfect. And so anybody have an opinion? Do we want to do smaller or bigger? Do we want to do, I don't want to do teeny tiny. So I'm thinking either this size or this size. Show you the comparison. Anybody have an opinion on whether we want to do big or small for the last set of eyes? Maybe big, because then it'll really draw it out instead of looking like a little wart. So we'll go ahead and do that. And again, I could always add eyebrows to all of these, and we'll see how that looks. Maybe I'll add it and then take it off if it doesn't work. Big, I think, good. I'm glad you agreed with me, Cat B. That's kind of what I was thinking, is that it would work this way better. All right, let me see. Where's my hole at? So what I'm doing when I use the awl is I'm actually just creating a space in between strands of the threads of the material instead of cutting a hole. Now, the relevance to that is that sometimes those strands will just kind of line back up. So if you're trying to do something similar to what I'm doing, you may have to go through some extra tries to find it afterwards. And cut this off. Oops, I only got one out. How dare I? Now I got to double check to make sure it's the same size. Yep, we're good. There's the other hole. And come on, you can do it. There's that. I think that there's a side of this that feels like, why would anybody want to watch this? But there's also the side of, like, oh, that's the process. Interesting. So if you're trying to learn how to do something like this, now you're seeing all these little steps that you may not have thought about. And several of these steps you may not have to do. Like, for example, cutting off those ends. That's something I've done, but it's also not important. And here's something I do want to say. If you wind up cutting off the ends, don't cut it off too close. If you do, your washer won't have anything to hold on to, and you might wind up finding that your eye comes right off and out. All right. Now, since we do have an eyebrow to add to this, I'm not going to add any more eyes, but maybe we'll add some more later once we get that figured out. It might be worth adding the eyes in at that time. So once again, I'm going to go through this whole process of stuffing this and not closing it up. And the reason, again, is so that we can kind of experiment, since this is a brand new design, and see where it lands. Now, when I take this stuff out, it's all clumped up. So I do have to go through some extra steps to fluff it out a little bit more. But that's not really a big deal. I just wanted to point it out as something to keep in mind so that we can get it nice and filled up. And you could always take the chopsticks at any point in time and kind of spread it around as well. Now, the good news is that I'm just filling the head. I'm not having to fill the tentacles. So I don't have to worry too much about making small portions of it to fill these small spaces. The tentacles were each filled themselves separately, and then I hand stitched them in place. And if we wind up making this as a permanent pattern, which I know I'm going to do, I'm just not sure what the plan is for the tentacles, I can always make little holes in my material, in my pattern, so that I can machine sew each of those. But I'm just not sure how likely I am to do that. Machine sewing a very small circle like this is not super easy to do. It's maybe if I had a different type of sewing machine, it would be different. But the way that mine is built, it doesn't have a whole lot of open space to kind of push that through. So I kind of have to manipulate it very weirdly to get it to work. But we are almost finished for the night. We've figured out the hand. I've got the body put together. We've arranged the eyes, and I think they look pretty great. I think that looks pretty good. And when we add the eyebrows here, I'm going to show you roughly what I mean by adding eyebrows. You find a piece that I can use here. Now this should work. So if I just roll this up, I got so much extra here. Let me hold on. Let me cut this off. All right, so let's say I roll this so we can see roughly the shape that I would be using. We add an eyebrow to it. I can make it like angry. I can make it inquisitive, like what? I can just have it floating there. It doesn't even have to be an expression. And I think that's going to work really well. Hey, Spaz, you're back. We're looking at how the eyebrows are going to wind up looking. Ah, that fell right off. Here, let me try something real quick so I can show you maybe a little bit better. I'm just going to go ahead and pin this in place. So we'll have the eyebrows roughly like that. And I can always, like I said, adjust it, change the shape. Yeah, like tuck the eyebrow like right in here so it looks like really angry. Ah! And then I can always add eyebrows to all the eyes, which would be kind of funny in its own little way. Let me go ahead and do some adjustment for the fluff in here. All right. I think that's going to work out pretty well. Let me go ahead and put that on the body. I think that's going to be pretty fun.
I'll bring your stuff in here.
I think the angry is pretty cute. He looks angry that he's not more threatening. It's kind of what it seems like to me. So here's the things I'm going to be working on next. I've got the wings. I may make a tail, which I might do like a spiral little tail. I've got to figure out the feet. And I think I still want to do the little ears, like the fin type ears out here, which I drew up as an example right here. So something similar to these ears. And of course, once I put something on, I could always just take it right back off. A lot of this stuff is non-permanent. Now, if anybody has any requests on what they'd like to see the feet, maybe you want to see extra arms, some extra tentacles on the body, on the head. If you have thoughts on the wings, like maybe you want really big wings. Like my original plan was to do teeny tiny little wings here, but maybe you guys would like to see really big wings that stick out in the back. And I could always do it so that they button in the front or something like that. So it's like he's holding himself or he wraps himself up. Do really small rings? Yeah, I kind of think small wings will be like the cutest. And then I can always do big wings at another time. And then like we'll figure out how to do I'm going to do the feet. Maybe I'm going to do just like I mentioned before, like the three-toed feet. Small wings would be cute. It looks like that is the consensus, and I agree. So if you have any thoughts, any requests, any ideas, not only for this, but perhaps you are curious about my Mondays. This is my unfinished Goofy Vaporeon. Yes, I make them goofy. They are meant to be funny looking. But I'm going to add the arms to him, and this is going to be my Vaporeon. I'm probably going to make this collar a little bit smaller. But again, the point is to make them goofy. This is goofier than I anticipated because I wanted this to look more like a nose right here, but I didn't know what when I sewed that on that it was so uneven. So if you have an interest in a plush, if you want me to show you how to make mice, let me know. If you want to give me suggestions for future Weird Wednesdays, maybe you got a monster that you'd like to do or some kind of horror movie that you'd like me to make one from, I'd love to hear some feedback. And the same thing for Pokemon. I am doing Generation 1 and 2 on my own, but if anybody orders and makes requests, like for example, Spaz ordered a Snivy, and let me see if I can find that real quick. Yep, there it is. So I made a Snivy by request. And again, the point is to make them goofy. I'm not doing one-to-one. So I have a lot of different things that I can do. If you guys are interested, just let me know. And other than that, I really thank everybody for being here tonight. We made quite a bit of progress on this little dude. I will sew on the other arm before I get back. And maybe I'll make a prototype eyebrow or maybe a prototype foot. And then maybe next week we'll do the wings. We'll decide if it needs a tail and see where it goes. Thank you so very much for coming by. I really appreciate everybody. Cat B, Teeny T, Snail, or Spaz. I'm trying to see. I think there's a couple other people. I forgot the name. I'm so bad with names. But we were talking about your Bethany. There we go. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you coming by. I hope you have a wonderful day and have a good night.